Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining this 17th Fridays for Birds webinar. I'm really happy today to talk about cheetahs and especially cheetahs in the Horn of Africa and my experience as a vet technician combating against the illegal wildlife trade. So I will start first of all just showing you the distributional map. As you can see, we have 4 subspecies of cheetahs, and each population is quite limited and in fragmented area and isolated as well. For example, I want you to pay attention to, especially to this area, the Horn of Africa, in which we have 2 different subspecies, and in both cases, they are really fragmented and isolated. And in fact, it is estimated that numbers of the cheetahs, the wild cheetahs in the world, are 6,500. And in the last 100 years, we saw the loss of 90% of the population. In fact, we can see from this map the historical distributional range in light blue, and in dark blue, the currently distributional range. So now cheetahs, of course, only 9% of their historical range, and that's why, since also this trend is continuously decreasing, IUCN classified cheetah as vulnerable. So talking about the main threats to cheetah, the population is characterized by a genetic bottleneck. That means that there is a really low genetic diversity with a high level of inbreeding. And this, of course, causes that the population in general is weak, genetically speaking, both wild and captive populations. And of course, cheetahs are more vulnerable to, they cope worse with climate change or environmental change in general. And this is also connected to the habitat loss, that is another threat. In fact, the suitable habitat for cheetah and also for cheetah's prey is every year less and less due to climate change, but also for human degradation of the habitat. And that's why there is general low availability. And then there is also a main theme of the human-wildlife conflict. We know that cheetahs, 90% of the cheetahs lives really close by managed areas or farmland. So cheetahs really, of course, easily in human-wildlife conflict. I will speak about it in a second. And then, of course, the main topic of today, the illegal wildlife trade. It is estimated that around 300 cheetahs every year are taken away from the wild to be sold. And I would like also to spend a few words for introducing the association I was working with. So Cheetah Conservation Fund, founded by Dr. Laurie Marker in 1990 in Namibia. They then built a second base in Somaliland in 2017. And in all these years, they could count on different operations and affiliates that grow up in the years all around the world. And I will shortly explain what CCF is doing in the headquarters in Namibia. So the 3 principles guidelines of CCF are conservation, research, and education. They do really different programs, but I choose to speak about just some of them. First of all, the livestock guarding dog program. They are pioneering in this kind of conservation program. So this is mainly to reduce the human-wildlife conflict. So CCF decided to provide Namibian farmers with Anatolian cubs, puppies for protecting livestock. And they saw in these years that the livestock loss was reduced up to 100%. So it's really an effective program. And they also offer, of course, a complete training to dogs and follow-ups and medical care to dogs. And there is also this farmer carnivore help hotline number that is available 24/7 for being always ready to support the community. the communities. And then another conservation project that is really, I want to talk about briefly, it's the habitat restoration. In fact, as I say, the suitable habitat for cheetahs is every year less. And that's why in Namibia, CCF decided to try to restore habitat while creating a renewable fuel for private use. And they do this while harvesting in sustainable way this invasive thorn that we can find in Namibia, and they reduce a lot the suitable habitat for cheetahs, and avoiding also the extra exploitation of native Namibian plants. And then for what concerned the research, CCF in all these years was really focused on having strong research about biology, physiology, and virology about cheetahs. They also have a really interesting program with dogs, another breed of dogs, cat detection, for genetics reasons. And they built a really big laboratory, and then of course they collaborate also with different universities. And since CCF in Namibia is also facility for rescuing orphaned or injured cheetahs, they also do a monitoring program when releasing cheetahs for studying the movement of the population of the individuals. And then none of them would be effective without a really nice education program. That's why CCF has always been committed to enhance the role of the predator in the ecosystem, mainly being addressed to farmers, schools, and local communities, and they are having really a big success with the educational program. But of course, none of them are today. The topic of today is the illegal wildlife trade, and this is a bit another chapter for CCF. So before going into the topic, I would like to show you how the illegal trade looks like. So as you see, cheetahs are mainly trade alive, or also part of them, like skin, skulls, and teeth. And in this article, it was the first time that they made a global data set for having an external view of 10 years of trade regarding cheetahs. And they analyzed which were the mainly involved countries, so the transit and source countries and the destination countries. And the result was that the Horn of Africa, so Somaliland, Kenya, and Ethiopia were the main involved country in the transit and source, while the destination countries were mainly the Arabic Peninsula's countries. And in 10 years, they record more than 4,000 cases of cheetahs trade. And as you can see, the large part of them, they were alive, 87%. And the advertisement for the trade was mainly made through social media, 88%. And I will go back to this theme later on. And so, but these studies show that the region of the north of Somalia, Somaliland, is one of the most involved in the traffic. And that's why CCF decided to go there and start a new project. But first of all, I want to just present briefly Somaliland, because maybe not all of you knows about it. So Somaliland is a self-declared country. It is unrecognized internationally, bordering to the north with Djibouti, Gulf of Aden, and to the south with Ethiopia and Somalia, southeast. In this area, in the bordering between Somaliland and Somalia, there is still some conflicts going on. And generally, Somaliland it's a really effective geographical area for the illegal trade, because it's really close to Yemen, separated only by the Gulf and the ocean. And I just want to spend just a few words about Somaliland, saying that in the last years, they experienced the worst drought ever, and they've seen 5 rainy seasons failing. So, of course, these conditions brought the population to be in really difficult conditions, especially for the most vulnerable part of the populations. And CCF decided so to start a project, and they came in Somaliland, first of all in 2011 for monitoring, counting number of cheetahs and collaborating with the ministry. And it is estimated that the cheetahs in the Horn of Africa are around 500. And CCF could finally build the first facility for rescuing cheetahs from the illegal wildlife trade in 2017. Of course, in these years, the collaboration were going on, also with the University of Hargeisa and other NGOs. And this year, finally, CCF could move from Hargeisa city, that is the capital, to the National Park of Gedeble with all the cheetahs and the facility. And a bit of numbers about the illegal trade. So when we think about the illegal trade, we also have to consider and to be aware that not only these cubs are taken away from the wild, but the major part of these cubs will die. And it's believed that 3 out of 4 cubs die during the long journey, and the few cubs that arrive finally to the destination country, they usually do not live more than 2 years. In fact, the conditions in which these cubs are taken and transported are really harsh. They are mostly closed in boxes or tied together with ropes, as you can see from these pictures. They don't receive proper alimentation. It's also very important to say that these cubs are very young, between 4 and 18 weeks for the major part. And this is a very vulnerable stage of mammals' life in general, because they usually are still in lactation. So not providing the proper alimentation in also for 1-2 days, it's really can be really critical. And on CCF website, you can have access of all year report about the activities. And in last year, we saw that 37% of the cubs that were rescued died immediately in the next days or weeks. And this is really due to the really severe conditions in which they arrived. But when they finally arrive, for these cubs, there is captivity, a long-term captivity program, thanks to CCF. And I just want to highlight the main points of how these cheetahs are managed. Of course, they receive veterinary treatments. As said before, they are really in serious conditions, so they receive physical and psychological rehabilitation. And then when once settled down, they mostly receive vaccination, antiparasitics, and of course there is treatment of every kind of conditions that they could have. And then it's very important to mention the training and enrichments that are connected to a long-term captivity program. These are mainly made for taking for reducing the stress of animals in captivity. So training are mainly made by positive enforcement, and I will explain a bit more in a second. And then there is different kind of enrichments that are styled for individuals. And then one of the duty of the staff is also to being able to identify cheetah. When I was there last year, cheetahs were already 87. So the staff has to be able to recognize them just by the face, the body shape, and a bit of behavior. So we provide temporary marks for the cubs that could be a shaved area of the body or no toxic color. And then once grown up, we made a photo database of each individual, and we learned how to recognize. In fact, cheetahs have a unique pattern of spots. And then also there is the creation of social groups. This is a bit different respect the wild, because in the wild we mostly find females alone and just small groups of young males. But of course, for space reason, research reason in general, in captivity, it is necessary to create groups. And so it's another duty of the staff, of the keeper, is to create effective and stable social groups that they can live long term. Of course, they are divided by sex to avoid captive breeding. And yeah, so talking about the training, as I said before, maybe it's a bit a tricky topic, but I just want to spend some words for explaining why it's so important in this case. As you can see in this picture, my colleagues are providing a vaccination to cheetah cub, totally awake, while receiving a positive enforcement training. And in these pictures, we were collecting blood for proceeding then with X-rays to sedated cheetahs, because it was not possible to do it another way. Of course, sedation, it's something, or anesthesia is something you want to avoid if not necessary. And with positive enforcement training, you are really able to do examination, vaccines, and treatment without any sedation. It is way less risky for both cheetah and staff. And just a brief explanation about what I experienced about the disease incidence. As a vet tech, of course, I was interested also in this. And I just want to make a short disclaimer. Everything that I'm talking now, it's referred mainly on what I did when the facility was still in Hargeisa city. And I will explain you later why now it's changed. But yes, we saw a lot of course, as I say, the genetic of the population is quite weak. And also these cheetahs in captivity, they can have quite high pressure about some metabolic disease or viral causes. So we saw quite a lot of chronic conditions that were managed by the staff the best that we can. And it's important to mention that every cheetah is recorded on ZIMS, that is a zoological information management system that is accessible by anyone in the world. And this is really a nice way to monitoring the disease incidence and to also offer some data for research. And just a few words about this picture. This is my colleagues were doing an X-rays on a cheetah. This cheetah was not tamed at all, but Natalie, the head keeper that you see here in the picture, she made hard work, and after a few months, it was possible to manage this cheetah in this way. So a cheetah is awake, leaking frozen blood from a cup, while my colleague in totally security, they are proceeding with X-rays. But I'm very happy to talk about a Gedeble project, the Land of Trees. So last year, CCF finally had the opportunity to move the entire facility and all the cheetah to Gedeble. So from Hargeisa, the capital city, to the national park, these are 50,000 hectares. And CCF had the opportunity to use 1,800 of them and to build 14 compounds for cheetahs. And of course, all these structures that can be useful. So veterinary clinic, laboratory, and cub nursery to host and to take care of 94 cheetahs, 1 leopard, and 1 caracal. And the staff that is living there, around 14 international staff and 10 local staff, they of course have the facility that they need. And some pictures, so just to show you how it was before. This is the safe house, they are called like this, in Hargeisa, and this is Gedeble. So you already can really see from this picture the big difference. And this, we have another nice pictures. So there is a fence, of course, cheetahs are kept in captivity, as I said, but there is a really huge presence of natural environment. So here, just a few pills about Gedeble life. The cub management is really quite similar to what we did in Hargeisa. So cubs are kept in quarantine for 14 days and then gradually introduced to outdoor space and gradually, of course, in the creation of the groups. But then the two main differences are about the natural enclosures that, as say, they offer really different kind of habitats. So cheetahs can choose if to run in a plain or to climb a tree or to hide in a bush. And then also the feeding method is changed because instead before it was individually feeding method, and now there is more natural feeding behavior thanks to carcass feeding. So they usually eat goat carcasses, and it's also very interesting to observe how the social schemes is acting in this case. And also here, cheetahs can hide the prey, can eat in different moments of the day. So it's very interesting, and it's way more natural. And as I showed you before, there is a fence, so cheetahs are not allowed to go out, but this doesn't avoid other animals to go in. In fact, my colleagues saw a couple of times cheetahs hunting prey in the compounds. In this video, we saw the lure system. It's something that's still an enrichment that we still use. So it's made for running cheetahs, so enhance the run capacity. And I'm really happy to share you this information that in general, this health status of the cheetahs is way better since they were moved. And we saw also a general decreasing of all the viruses and the social issues within the group. Yeah, here we have other pictures. So you see 4 cheetahs climbing a tree. And in these other pictures on the right, you see what I said before, temporary marks. So shaving the tail, for example, could be a method to recognize a cheetah. And of course, another important point for CCF regarding the staff. In fact, I think also for my personal opinion that the only way to really do a conservation project in ethical way is also to pass through inclusivity. And this is why one of the goals of CCF is to transition all the operation to Somalilander people. And of course, there is also a large presence of volunteers, students, and international staff that brings every month, every year, a lot of different backgrounds. So it's very interesting environment. And yeah, here you see that we have just made an X-ray to a Marshall eagle. And if you wonder why, it's because in the years CCF received also other animals. So for example, the hooded vulture and the Marshall eagle, they were brought to CCF because there were no other facilities available for rescuing them in Somaliland. And the Marshall eagle unfortunately died after a few days and weeks of in the facility due to the really bad conditions at arrival. But the hooded vulture was released after rehabilitation. And for the caracal and the leopard, they were probably mixed, taken as cheetah cubs, or sometimes traffickers where they don't find cheetah, they just try to take whatever they can. And this is why illegal wildlife trade, it's not only about cheetahs, of course, but about a large variety of animals. And these 2 animals are also now in CCF facilities. And yeah, I'm already going to conclusions. So as said before, for CCF Namibia, also in Somaliland, there is a really important education program and also a lot of collaboration internationally. So even though the illegal trade is maybe one of the mainly problem in the Horn of Africa, it's also important to mention that Somaliland, the major income of Somaliland is still livestock. So there is also a part of human-wildlife conflict with livestock. So that's why CCF is committed to give education programs to, yeah, as said before, just to enhance the role of the cheetahs in a healthy ecosystem. So they are working with schools, farmers, and visitors. And then there is this really nice new program, Community Wildlife Observers. In this case, the community are directly involved in reporting traffickers. So CCF give training and tools such as binoculars or GPS or mobile phone, and community are able to report if they see something that can be correlated to illegal trade. And then there is a strong collaboration with different countries. So CCF is part of LICIT project, that is intelligence about against trade, illegal trade. And the main aim of this project is to reinforce the law between the countries and to have a more homogeneous way to act against traffickers. And then something also that I found really interesting is that CCF not only think about long-term view, so stopping the traffic, of course, but they also think about the present. And in the present, unfortunately, we still have some cheetahs that are kept in captivity, and we really want to avoid them to being bad managed. So that's why CCF offers also training in Arabic Peninsula in Somaliland to the veterinary to being able to take care properly to these animals. And yeah, the last thing I would like to say, it's more about us, that we are probably never going to buy a cheetah cub or a parrot or a monkey. But every one of us has social media, or almost everyone, and we have a really huge responsibility in using social media. As said before, as shown also from the database, the majority part of the advertisement are through social media. So we should be aware, and we should be we should be aware about our responsibility to recognize what is illegal, what could be correlated to illegal trade, and to report them to the organization that are working with that. And yeah, so with this, I just want to say Mahad Sani to all the people that I've been working with, and they are still taking care of the cheetahs. And yeah, and thank you all for the attention, and I will be happy to answer all the questions that you can have.